CM Punk shouted out Belal Muhammad on Monday Night Raw for his incredible victory over Leon Edwards at UFC 304. I honestly thought it was so cool, especially being a huge CM Punk fan since I was like 40. I was so obsessed with the whole best in the world era, the whole cult of personality thing. I was such a huge CM Punk fan, so seeing CM Punk shout out Belal Muhammad was so cool for me. I would come home from school on a Tuesday, and then first thing I would do is get changed and watch Monday Night Raw, because I would be watching it on a Tuesday as Monday Night Raw would be coming on at 3 a.m. UK time. So I was so obsessed with it, and it was so cool for me to see CM Punk shouting out Belal Muhammad. Then I had a little think about it and realised that they're both from Chicago. So seeing this segment from Monday Night time, but I'm so inclined to get back into it and watch CM Punk again. So I literally stopped watching wrestling when CM Punk left. I was so upset and disappointed when he left the organisation. CM Punk is so cool for this, and I think he really acknowledges that his teammate Belal Muhammad gets so much hate online, and he literally used the biggest platform he had on stage on Monday Night Raw and shouted out Belal Muhammad. I think that is so iconic. So I'm super glad that Belal Muhammad is still getting all the publicity and recognition he deserves for his UFC welterweight title win. Like I said, I was always a huge CM Punk fan, and I was going through his social media and I saw some really funny clips of him interacting with fans. And I think that's what makes him so iconic. But still, in all the comments, I'm seeing so much jealousy and hatred towards Belal Muhammad, and I honestly just can't wait for him to get back in action again. I know a lot of people are saying his first title defense is probably going to be against Shavkat Rakhmonov, who, as we know, is undefeated and incredibly dangerous, and I think that fight will be absolutely huge, and I can't wait to see when it will be announced. I'm actually really interested in seeing Shavkat Rakhmonov's sister, Sora Rakhmonova, get back in the octagon. I remember earlier this year, maybe a couple months back, she was supposed to be on Dana White's Contender Series, but then she was never on it. I believe she had some kind of injury. But moving on, I've been checking her socials, and the only update I could find about her is that she got married, and it looked like such a beautiful wedding. So Shavkat was not present himself. He was in fact training and preparing for his fight against Wonderboy Thompson at UFC 296. So honestly, I'm just waiting for her to make her debut in the UFC. So Kamaru Usman and Belal Muhammad have been going back and forth on Twitter recently, and the fans online are absolutely loving it. It's definitely provided some entertainment this week. It seems like winning the UFC welterweight title has given Belal so much confidence, and I think it suits him really well. Belal also received an incredible hero's welcome when he returned back to Chicago. I was looking at Belal's Instagram story yesterday, and it's clear that he's literally just living his best life, and which he so incredibly deserves. So finally, we have the co-main event of UFC 308 announced: Khamzat Chimaev versus Robert Whittaker. Of course, we all remember that this fight was initially cancelled due to Khamzat being ill, and we saw Ikram Aliskerov, who is a fighter from Dagestan, step in on short notice, but unfortunately lost via a first round knockout. So by the time of UFC 308, which will be the end of October, it will have been almost a year since we've seen Khamzat in the octagon. We last saw him in the octagon at UFC 294 when he defeated Kamaru Usman. Of course, UFC fans online are really doubting whether Khamzat will even make it to this fight, and won't believe it until they literally see Khamzat in the octagon and the octagon doors locked. So Robert Whittaker did say in an interview recently that he asked for this fight simply because he wants to destroy the whole Khamzat Chimaev becoming a champion in the middleweight division storyline. He really wants to get his hands back on that middleweight title for himself. As we know, Khamzat Chimaev is a huge draw in the UFC. I believe he has so many fans all over the world. I was looking at his Instagram yesterday, and he was in Paris recently, and he had so many fans show up and want to meet him and get autographs and pictures with him. They literally looked like there was huge lines of people just waiting to see him. I know I keep going back to it, but even when he came to Manchester, there was so many people just so excited out on the street just waiting to see him. He has such an incredibly huge fan base, and he's definitely a huge draw for the UFC. And I think Khamzat Chimaev being the UFC's middleweight champion one day will be so iconic and an incredible era for the UFC. I've seen a few predictions already going around online for Khamzat Chimaev versus Robert Whittaker, and a lot of people are saying that Khamzat Chimaev will gas out and he won't be able to do the full 5 rounds, meaning that Robert Whittaker will win. But I honestly think people are underestimating Khamzat Chimaev. He trains so incredibly hard, and I think if anything, the fight will go to a decision. So believe it or not, Israel Adesanya versus Dricus du Plessis is only 1 week away. So I've been keeping up with Israel Adesanya's vlogs and I am in absolute awe of his training routine, especially this underwater swimming exercise that he does. I believe that helps him cope with pressure and his breathing. I think it is just so cool and I've never seen anything like it. And also he was using this infrared mat and doing some kind of breathing exercise on it. I believe it's called a PEMF mat and it promotes healing and wellness, so I really want to get my hands on it. So it's clear that Israel Adesanya is doing absolutely everything he can to make sure he's in perfect condition for his fight against Dricus du Plessis for the middleweight title. So we haven't seen Israel Adesanya in the octagon in quite a while. His last fight was in September 2023, which was against Sean Strickland, which ended in a decision loss. But I am honestly so excited to see Israel Adesanya back in the octagon. Israel Adesanya has such an intense rivalry with Dricus du Plessis. I keep going back to this face-off that they had, and it's clear that there is so much tension between the pair, and I just can't wait to see how that plays out in the octagon. So it seems that a lot of UFC stars are keeping up with the Olympics, including Israel Adesanya, and also don't forget Islam Makhachev, the current lightweight champion, who did speak out about not being so impressed with the opening ceremony for the Paris Olympics. I know the Paris Olympics opening ceremony brought about so much controversy online. Since being a kid, I've always loved tuning in to the Olympic opening ceremony. I remember especially China's opening ceremony was so cool and iconic. The synchronization was just something that we've never seen before. So even the London 2012 Olympics opening ceremony was so cool. There was so much in the opening ceremony that meant a lot to British culture. Like we had Mr. Bean, we had James Bond, we had the Queen make her appearance. I think it was so cool and it was something that was really family friendly to watch, whereas the opening ceremony for the Paris Olympics I think was a little bit more scandalous. I think if I was a kid watching that, I would have been so confused and slightly uncomfortable watching it, and probably a little bit scared as well, because they had Marie Antoinette like holding her decapitated head, so I think I would have been scared. And now looking back at the ceremony, I don't understand what was the French aspect about it. What did they show about their culture really? So many other themes and ideas could have been explored for the Paris Olympics opening ceremony, so I totally agree with what Islam Makhachev had to say about it. Please don't forget to share and like this video, comment below and subscribe to my channel.